think I'm live. I'm trying to get over on my other device here. Just bear with me one moment. I'm early too, Tim. All right, so let me mute this. You guys let me know if the audio looks okay and if the picture looks okay. Try to get this turned. Welcome in. It's our How-To Tuesday. And again, I'm running on 2 devices because YouTube continues to surprise me in so many ways. Tim's a member. Ruby from Russian Wind's a member. Appreciate you both. Tim's a PA guy. Russian Wind's out west in the mountains in a cabin somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Okay. I'll give everyone a minute to come in. You guys hear me okay? I got the clapping hands from Tim. I think that means that you guys can hear me okay. I'm running off my phone for like the camera, but if you guys have been watching anything that's been going on with the channel, I just want to keep a close eye on chat. Tonight's sub only. Closed it down to subs. You got to be sub for 20 minutes. Northeast, can you hear me all right, buddy? Welcome in, another PA guy. Tim's a Pittsburgh guy. I think Northeast's a PA guy. He's close to the border on Jersey. I'm going to assume you can hear me. Tonight we were going to talk about worms, from growing worms to fishing worms. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to jump right in. These How-To Tuesdays, we did this last year all winter long, and we got a late start this year. But the idea, I feel like I'm a broken record, but I know a lot of people come in and never seen these before. Northeast Lab is somewhere in the Northeast. The idea of these is to like kind of, if you're a new angler or a young angler or somebody who just, always felt like they didn't want to ask a question, that's what these are for. We have a lot of younger viewers. So yeah, Northeast PA. We narrowed you down. So that's the idea of these. So doing so, I don't want to be a 4-hour chat live. I will do those, and that's not tonight. It's not a fishing live. This is like textbook going back to school, learning fishing basics. But it's amazing what you uncover and what you don't know. So tonight's topic is worms. So I'm going to keep them short and sweet. I try to keep the notes and reading everything down to the first 30 minutes. And I can answer any questions, and I'm not an expert. So this is up for discussion. I depend on everybody in the channel to like help out with the conversation. And if somebody comes into the channel asking questions, as a group, we can answer those questions. There's Rod's Fishing Adventures. Welcome in. Good to see you. Daniel Burry, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for coming in. Hope you all are doing good. P&B Catfishing, there's Paul. Dwight, everybody's pouring in. The sour worms is Dwight's favorite. And Dwight, we did a video ice fishing a few years back, and Kevin and I did a challenge, and I caught a pickerel on a sour worm. So yeah, they're my favorites too. But I'm going to jump right in because I'm boring and I want to cover ground and I want to make it factual. So I took notes. I actually have it on paper. And a lot of the stuff is from right here. So I want to cite my sources. When I'm trying to stay factually correct, this is the Complete Guide to Freshwater Fishing. So I kind of base it off of this, but most of it's all of it's been tested. I've been fishing since I was a little kid, Kevin's age. So why worms? And we're talking about live worms here, not rubber worms or anything else. And hold your complaints till later because I know there's 2 sides of live bait and I will cover it all. But why worms? Fish love them. Bass, trout, carp, cat, sunfish, crappie, perch. And honestly, it's the go-to bait. If you're taking a kid fishing, a worm on a hook is the way to go. They're natural. They're found. The fish find them naturally in their environment. You can dig them up. You don't need to go to a store and buy them, but they're widely available at stores. And keep an eye on chat. There's Chad Thomas, and another awesome member, and possibly the president of Anything is Possible. He might be our president, I'm not sure. Yeah, you guys can, I think you have the ability to share your links out, so please go ahead and do that and connect. Anyone in PA have ice yet? We got a solid 3/4 of an inch here, Northeast Slab. I sent my 10-year-old out to test it. He fell through, so a couple more days. I think we need 2 good weeks. I saw people posting all getting excited about ice fishing this weekend. Even though the temps look real cold, I think it's 2 weeks. We're 2 weeks out. And you know how that's going to go. We never get more than a week of cold anymore. We got to go visit Tim. Tim is Northwest, I think we should call him. Tips for using worms as bait. Keep them, well, first we're going to say how to keep them alive, I guess. You got to keep them cool and damp. They like it dark. Store in the fridge. The red worms, which are the wigglers, and this was something I learned along the road that helped me a lot. Red worms or wigglers, they seem like they're the most active worms. They also withstand warmer weather or warmer temps than the night crawlers. And I'm speaking mainly of like the Canadian night crawlers and the European night crawlers. I know there's like an African variety and I don't know anything about them, so I'm not speaking about them. But the red wigglers, hey Jody, welcome in. I'm reading chat from one screen, staring at a camera in another. I don't know why. But yeah, the night crawlers need colder temps. So, 50 to like 70. Anything above 70, they kind of get mushy and die out pretty quick. I just read right before hopping on here that night crawlers live up to 5 years, which, I always thought worms turned around and died real quick, but they don't. They live pretty long. Types of worms, we got night crawlers, which are favored by like cat fishermen because they're a bigger worm. Also good for bass and walleye. And I catch trout and I catch everything on night crawlers too. Generally speaking, night crawlers are the bigger worms. You use them for catfish, bass, and walleye. Somerset County. Every time I see Somerset County, my butt hurts from my long bike rides out there. Such a beautiful area. Red wigglers are the smaller variety of worms often used for bluegill, crappie, and trout. Not that they won't catch larger fish either. And then mealworms are reserved more for like the panfish and perch. But I swear by mealworms for trout, especially under a trout float on a trout magnet head. But you got to put like 3 of them on, but it works really good. Peeking in on chat, making sure my haters don't show up. Type of worms. We got the night crawlers, red wiggler. Yeah, I covered that, I think. Yep, I did that. Hooking a worm. 3 main ways to hook a worm that I found. Hook in the middle and let dangle. It doesn't get any simpler than that. You don't need to know which is the head, where's the neck, where's the tail. Take a hook, put it once or even twice through the middle. But you want it to kind of, if you're hooking it twice, you don't want it to be like a ring exposed in the worm. You want the worm to just lay natural, because that natural wiggle action is what's going to get the strikes, in my opinion. You can also hook it up towards the head 2 or 3 times, especially if you have the type of hook where it keeps falling off. Hook 2 or 3 times up the head and let the tail, don't let your OCD get you and make sure it's got to be even. Nope. Go up to one side, hook around the head, and let that tail dangle out. That dangling tail is what are going to get the strikes. That being said, I also like to use a bait hook. That's what I call them, bait hooks. They have the barbs on the back side of it. I have one here. Let's see. I don't know if I'll be able to get this close enough to see or not, but it's got barbs right up here on the back side of that hook, and that really helps the worm stay up on the hook. Yeah, I guess you can see those all right. So that's a size 8 hook right there. And then the third method is to cut the worm in half and slide it over the hook. That's a technique that I use on a trout magnet, or you can use like Dave. I know Dave from Double Hook Angling. He makes jigs, and I use his all the time too when I have them, and so does Matt in Natural State. So any type of jig like this, you can hook the worm the other two methods, or this third method is like you actually take the worm, break it in half, and then like you hide that hook in that worm so that it looks almost like a trout magnet, and it just keeps going out the back like this. That's deadly on trout. I use that method a lot. So yeah, these are basic techniques, but like I said, some people always are curious about it. Jamaican Shore Fishing, welcome in. Good to see you. Brandon Outdoors, welcome in. Awesome to see some newer names here. Jamaican Shore Fishing is one of the newer channels I just found. Awesome. There's Ray, Fish Head Videos, welcome in. Great for bass as well, yep. And I'm not speaking just trout. I do fish multi-species. But my favorite thing to do, just because of where we live, is like creek hopping. We have so many different creeks. So the setup I just showed you with that trout magnet will catch just about everything. And I've caught 5, even my PB bass came on a setup like that, but with a power worm. Let's see what else we got. So those are the 3 methods to hook a worm. Did you know worms produce amino acids and release them when they're submerged in the water? The amino acid scent is strong enough to travel a long way through the water. I don't know. Berkeley says they do the same thing, so who knows, right? But like I said earlier, you can get these things in your yard for free. And not to skip ahead, but some people look down on live bait, and yeah, it's kind of like, it can be looked at as a cheat, right? But if you catch your own bait or you raise your own bait, you know, like this, it becomes like a little, you know, it's almost like tying your own fly when you start doing it this way. And I'll go into the whole setup and why I feel that way about worms. My 2 cents, this is totally my opinion here. My best time for fishing worms, I think, is the springtime. And I think it's because, you know, as kids, as an adult, the first couple spring rains is when the worms come out on your driveway and pavement. They're like everywhere, right? So the worms are active. That coincides with rain in the spring. You got runoff, you got higher levels, creeks coming into lakes. So I think it's kind of natural to assume that there's a big influx of worms in the creeks in the springtime. And, you know, that just supports, like, growing up trout fishing here in the spring, you can't beat a red worm. I mean, they just go nuts for them. The other best time for fishing worms is at night in the summer. I find that even for like smaller channel cats, big brown trout, big bass, nighttime, I feel like they really, you know, and again, it's probably the scent, and it's going, you know, at night, even for smaller trout, the size of the worm going up to the night crawler, and high murky water. Anytime the water's murky, you want to go bigger because it's hard to see. So you're introducing a bigger pattern for them to see, and you're also introducing more scent in the water for them to smell, since they don't have the sight sense as well. And make sure I didn't miss it there. Sam, V8, welcome in. Good to see you in there. Thanks for coming by. And sometimes half a worm is better than a whole worm. Even with trout and sunfish, you know, every trout, and you'll see this in my last video, maybe, or last 2 videos, and even my next video coming up. We've been doing a good bit of trout fishing, stockies and wilds. I find sometimes bigger isn't better, where you might catch 2 out of a hole and think, you know, oh, I caught them all, right? take that worm and split it in half, or if you're using a little worm, go the opposite way, put a bigger one on. What you'll find is there's other fish sitting there that just wanted a different presentation. So just altering the presentation slightly is sometimes really beneficial. Ice fishing is another one, Tim. They are very good ice fishing. Yep, absolutely. This is a Rod's Fishing said the whole live bait is cheating is ridiculous, but we'll use plastics that look like live bait, put scent on it. I may not be right on this, and I use a lot of fake baits. I tend to use the live bait a lot when I'm with Kevin, and I want to make sure that we're getting on fish and things like that. But for the most part, I'm out there running around with, I don't have time to go out and grab live bait or take worms all the time. That being said, I'm amazed at how much trash I find. And there's just rubber, and I eat a lot of fish. I'm gutting fish and I'm pulling out rubber baits. And so I always think of like the pollution, like how much pollution are we putting out there with the fake baits and stuff. I know it's just a thought. It's just, part of me thinks at least you're feeding the fish when you're out there throwing worms. I don't know. But rigging tips. This is probably the most important takeaway for a new angler. And I see it constantly on the water. And no matter how many times you say it to somebody, they don't seem to understand how important it is. Rigging tips for worms, or pretty much any live bait, add just enough weight to hold position. So if you're still fishing is where you set up, whether it's in a creek or a lake, you're going to cast and you're going to leave that rod go, and you want that bait to stay in one location. Excuse me. So you're waiting for a real subtle strike. So I will often use my number 8 hook, 6 hook, anywhere up like 10 hook, 12 hook even, depending on what you're going for, right? And if you see right now, I have no weight on this. And I started with 2 tiny little split shot. And the creek I've been fishing the last couple of days, and we've been doing well. And these are all holdovers at this point, a long time holdovers. And I had 2 split shot on, took one off. It still didn't move, so I took the second one off. The worm and the weight of the hook was enough to hold it in this spot. And it would kind of flow a little bit. And that's all you need. So just enough weight to hold position if still fishing. Or just enough weight to let it drift along the bottom. You can do it same spot in a creek, preferably. And again, not getting strikes, or the strikes have slowed down. Take the split shot off and let it, and put it into a little bit more current or whatever you need to let it drift along the bottom. But you want it to bang along the bottom. You don't want it to just stop and move unnaturally. You want it to kind of trickle down. Or another method is to add float, add a trap magnet float or any type of small, delicate float. Small is the key word here if you're going for trout, crappie, perch, because the big float doesn't move a lot when it takes a hit. You want to be able to see that motion right away. I love trout floats. They're easy to pop on. They cost like $2 for like a bag of 50, and we're always losing stuff. So that's kind of what I go to. The advantage of that is you can float the bait off the bottom and figure out what depth they're in. If you're fishing 8 feet of water, trout could be on the bottom, they could be in the middle, they could be at the top. Rather than trying to play with the right current, drift, weight, you can simply throw a little split shot 6 inches above the worm, and then a float maybe another 6 inches up from that, and then adjust that float to get the worm in the strike zone. So these are all methods you can fish the exact same spot without moving your feet before you give up on a spot. Or another method is to float the worm off the bottom, which is a huge, like when the trout are stocked and they're going nuts, this is like kind of the go-to method. And couple different ways you can float the worm. You can do a hypodermic needle if you can still find them. Hypodermic needle, pump it up with air, and you'll have the split shot, and then you'll have the leader, maybe 12 inches, 18 inches even, and that'll float it off the bottom. Trout are usually, bellies near, if they're along the bottom, they'll go down, but they're looking up and slightly up. So to have it off the bottom, it'll keep it out of the rocks and the weeds, just to make it more, visible to the fish is the idea, I guess. But if you don't have a hypodermic needle, here's a method I've been doing a lot more. I've been taking either like a regular trout hook, I put the worm on. I'll put the worm on first because remember the bait hook has the barbs up top, helps hook the worm. So I'll put the worm up top and I'll usually hook it right in the middle. And then I'll put a piece of power bait right under that. The power bait will give it that buoyancy and help float it up. Here's a little more different method I've been doing too. Same along the lines. So I've been doing a lot of carp fishing. Heat of the summer through the ice, you need meat. I do plastic for 8 months of the year for crappie. Yep. Yeah, a lot of the little plastics are, my go-to is the trout magnet with a red power worm. It's probably not much better than live bait, but that thing works killer on so many fish. Tiny floats at Walmart are pretty good. I think that's what I use, Ray. I use both I'm sorry, I'm catching up on chat. I didn't mean to ignore you guys. I use both live plastics because crappie can be finicky critter one day. They won't touch live bait the next and won't touch plastics. Exactly right. Let's see. Yeah, I think I got caught up. So this is a method that I'm recently fascinated with. So I've been doing a ton of carp fishing, and sometimes I'll have a big method feeder on 2 of the rods, and then on my 3rd rod, especially in winter, I'll use something a little more subtle. So I'll be running like 6 pound, maybe 8 pound for winter carp, and I'll have like a bullet lead, any type of slipping lead, down to my regular carp hook, right? And what I've been doing is throwing power bait on the hair rig. There's a hair rig on this style, right? It's got the little bait lock. I've been putting power bait on there and the worm on the actual hook. And I've been getting them pretty good on here to the point where I'm starting to think I may tie some hair rigs with like 4 pound mono and a size smaller hook with the bait barbs on the back and see if I can kind of master that technique a little bit. But the hookup ratio has been really good on this setup. So I'm intrigued, to say the least. Trying to break my rod in here. Come on. Okay. I'm going to put my rods in the holder before my cat comes in and creates a problem. I just mounted this rod holder before the live tonight in here. Running out of real estate to put rods in this basement, so I've moved in here. Make sure I'm keeping up here. Yeah, so I think we covered the rigging tips. And like I said, rigging tips on the worms and any live bait to me is the most important. Getting the hook size right for the type of fish you're going for and for the type of bait you're using. It's huge. Negatives of using live bait. So anyone listening thinking, what's this guy talking about? Please don't tell people to go use live bait. All right, so here's the negatives on using live bait. Can't be denied. Deep hooking is a big concern. So don't use live bait when you are doing primarily catch and release. So if you're going to go out, a lot of times we do catch and release, right? But we're doing it in catch and release where there are holdovers and they're stock trout. And we're doing catch and release knowing that if we gut hook one, we're going to take it home and eat it. We're not going to try to revive it and release it. We'll let it go. Now, if we're catching finicky wilds where we're like Like we don't want anything to die, and they're small, and it's just like a spot where you don't want to harvest wilds from at all. We'll steer clear of it, right? But that being said, if you do hook one deep, and you have to take it out, and there's I'm not going to show you all the methods because in my opinion, I said what I said because in my opinion, a lot of people think they're doing the right thing, getting the hooks out, and think they know how to do it, and they swim, they say, oh, it swam away, but those are dead fish. And some of the catch and release guys, and I do a lot of catch and release, so I'm not trashing catch and release guys, but you see them out there, sitting there catching 20, 30 trout, letting them all go, just grabbing them and throwing them. And it's like, you know, a lot of those fish ain't making it. And I always think, a lot of times I go out, I'm going out for lunch. I'm going out to catch 3 trout because that's what I can harvest, and I'm done the day. No more than 3 dying, right? Now, there's a lot of guys that do catch and release the right way, and I'm not talking to them, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about. But if you do hook one deep, in my opinion, you get as close to the hook, especially with a trout, and cut the line. Like I said, I'd rather eat that thing, but I wouldn't go and try to remove it once it's down the throat. On a bigger fish and bass, yeah, you can go in through the gills a little bit and watch a video. Don't just listen to me on this one because you got to do it the right way. You got to go in the front of the gills, but you can go in there and you can at least cut the hook. Even if you can't remove the hook, you go in there with a cutter and you cut the hook, and it's going to fall out on its own usually. Other negatives, not always allowed, so check your local rules. A lot of where the wilds are around here, you aren't allowed. It's artificial only, so you can't use live bait in there anyway. And then other negative is you got to carry them around, got to keep them alive. So it's, you know, they're up to like $5. You spend $10 on a pack of worms anymore. So you've got that whole thing going. You got to keep them alive. Lloydie's welcome in, buddy. Yeah, morning from it's back to morning over there. Good to see you. Let's see who else we got. What do you think about state lighting? Northeast says, hey man, what do you think about our state? I like reading the hey man, Pennsylvania accent. Hey man, what about our state letting 50 crappie go home? Is that what it's up to? 50 crappie? I thought it was 30, which is still crazy. That's why half one of the lakes have nothing but shorts. Yeah, I mean, we don't really target crappie just because there's not a lot real close to us. Yeah, that's crazy. Lloydies, they don't rot out in time on a trout. They're going to die, man. You might think you're letting those things go and they're living. They ain't. They're dying. Those hooks do not die out very quickly. And if they're in the gills, those gills are going to bleed out real quick. Now, some of the wild trout are tough. You know, I will, so I'm not speaking general. I guess I am speaking generally. I do fish places where the wilds are tougher than the stockies. I also fish a lot of places where the stockies are tougher than the wilds. You just have to kind of be a considerate human being and not be a jerk, I guess. All panfish are 50. Yeah, see, I thought it was 30. And I would never even think about keeping 50. I mean, that's crazy. But I guess if you're going to freeze them and stuff, I'm going to say this. That sounds crazy to me, and I don't think I'd ever keep that amount, even combined with Kevin and me. But as I tell everybody, don't complain to another angler. Figure out who makes the rules and go change them. You can't complain about somebody following a rule. That's my opinion. My 2 cents on that. Rods, I think Kevin and I, and the only reason we kept 30 white crappie was we caught them up in Green Lane Reservoir. Hey, Anthony J, what's going on, buddy? If you who was just talking to me about this? I think it was the Northeast, about Green Lane Reservoir. There was a time where they wanted those white perch or white perch out of there. And Kevin and I were doing lives up there or videos up there, and we were catching like 200. They're all small, like even a big one's 9 inches. And I think I kept 30 one day. And just because they were like, get them out of here, we don't want them here, blah, blah, blah. And they're delicious, taste just like fish sticks. They're delicious. And after cleaning 30 of them, I was like, yeah, you know, I have to be in a pretty bad situation for that. Yeah, I agree. That's a lot of fish to clean. Um, yeah, last word about worms. I'm going to say raising worms. Um, I think I put his link in the description of this video. AJ's Green Topics, I think is the name of his channel. The dude knows more worms than anybody you can think of. The guy's like ridiculously knowledgeable with worms. And he's been doing it a long time. He's not some dude that just started playing with it and finds out mites are a problem or flies are a problem. Check the dude's history out. He's been in the game a long time. He's super responsive. But basically, here's the basics. You can raise the worms. Night crawlers have to be kept with night crawlers. Red wigglers have to be kept with night wigglers. For the main, you know, it's basically peat moss is what you're growing them in, right? If you want to be economic or environmental friendly, use coconut stuff or whatever. It's not that much more money, but it's basically a medium like peat moss, and you're filling it up. You know, this is a miniature. I would use a bigger tub, but we have a whole bunch of tubs. You're going to fill it mostly up with the peat moss, right? And then above that, it's like a weekly feeding of table scraps, you know, from your kitchen. Whatever you got in table scraps, throw that in. And then some browns like cardboard, newspaper, shred those up or cut them up small, put them in there, keep it moist. They will dissolve that down into the bedding, and then you just add it, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. That's the basics. Keep them cool in the right temperature. So we've always composted, and we've always just composted outside, but now I've got 4 bins started with worms, probably about 2,000 night crawlers, and about 500 red wigglers started. And it's super easy to do. And you can rate it anytime you go fishing, but you're also producing, you know, that's the basics. Like I said, after a while, you got to switch out that dirt because the castings go in there. But that dirt is great topsoil. So if you look at the price of topsoil, it's that you can sell that stuff if you're not going to use it. But we do gardening and everything, so we're going to use that. We're basically making our own expensive topsoil there. Let me make sure, see if I missed anybody. Right out, as you can see, going through the gills is the right practice. I'm going to do this. You're saying going through the, yeah, going through the gills for mostly. I've never, you know, you can touch the trout over here, Lloydies. You touch them in the gills. You look them in the gills and they bleed out, man. But yeah, bass you can get in there, and I'm sure, and I'm talking about like largemouth bass is what I'm speaking of. I got to remember where people are in the country or in the world, every different species. I don't do a lot of saltwater, so I'm not going to pretend like that and speak to it. But yeah, going through the gills is typically the way to get it because that's where they are. Deep down in the throat, you can pop over the gill and look at it right in there. So, you know, go in there, cut it, get it down there, cut the hook if you can't get the hook out easily, and just pull it straight back out. Yep, Tim said, have you heard of putting coffee grinds in your worms? Yep. We do coffee grinds. Everything in the kitchen, man. Everything in the kitchen. The only thing we don't put in, proteins. I do eggshells. So I don't know how they are, but I've always done eggshells and they're fine. But nothing citrus. It messes with the pH. So orange peels, lemons, all that stuff. And nope, I don't do avocados. I don't know how they affect worms. I don't do it because if the chickens get into your compost pile, it'll kill your chickens. And our compost piles, Stuart, we went live, buddy. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. But we used to do our big compost pile outside and free range our chickens. And the reason we would do that is we'd get the compost pile built up so much that like it would stay warm all winter, melt the snow off of it. And there'd be all kinds of worms and all kinds of critters in that pile, and the chickens would feed off of it. So it was a great healthy protein source in the wintertime. And they loved it. They just spent hours on top of that pile. But yeah, coffee grinds are great. I don't want to steal AJ's thunder. And I won't because he's got so much stuff. He's an expert on it. I just watched the one video today that I put in there on Chow. And what's cool about his videos is this last video was very fishing related. It was like how to get your worms fat. Because like when you're reading anything on worms, people raise worms for castings. They raise them for fishing. There's different reasons to raise worms. Some people are raising them to sell. I've heard you almost starve them in those cases so that they reproduce more. So that might be cool sometimes to get your numbers up and lay more eggs. But if you want a fat worm for fishing, it's a different approach than maybe reproducing worms. I think I covered everything. Avoid citrus and protein was the last thing on my sheet. So let me go back to chat. Yeah, I mean, that's what I've always been told. Rod's Fishing Adventures. He said avocado kills chickens. I don't know that. Didn't know that. Hi, Masha. Good to see you. Thanks for coming by. There's Wendy. Hello. That's just something I had heard, and I got to err on that side. So I've always left them out of the compost pile. We've always composted. Been married years. We've always composted. We've always had chickens and stuff like that, or gardens. So, when you look at the price of soil, you realize like that stuff is valuable. It is really valuable. I guess if you live in the city or something, you might not think about that. But like out where we are, and I've lived off the land before, so I'm not speaking out of term here. There's not a lot of trash. There is not a lot of trash when you're done. We're cutting down the brown of the cardboard. All the scraps are compost. To this day, our trash goes out in like a plastic grocery bag, not a big 55-gallon construction bag. There's just not a lot left at the end of the day. Stuart, you want maggots? Let me know in chat if you want to hear how to make maggots, and a very cool way to do it. Just be careful who your neighbors are when you do it. But I can tell you exactly how to do maggots very successfully. You can do this to bait fish in an area like carp or to feed your chickens. Very, very successful way to do it. You will never need to buy maggots again. Let's see. Gypsy and Vanilla Gorilla, welcome in. Good to see you. Thanks for coming by my chat tonight. Appreciate it. Worms in the UK, we tend to, if a fisherman removed from compost bins. Worms in the UK, we tend to, if a fisherman removed from compost bins. Yeah, okay. Stuart's always giving me a hard time telling me to use a fly. So I knew this would be a controversial live for him. He's sitting here talking about worms. Get over it, Stuart. We're using worms, man. All right, nobody wants to hear my maggots? I'm going to tell you anyway. So you're going to get a 5-gallon bucket with a lid. John, you're here for the maggots. Close, Lloydie, close. But I use this method. That'll work, by the way. I use this method with my chicken. It's a little more sophisticated. You know how we are in the U.S. So you take a 5-gallon bucket with a lid, throw some type of dead animal in there, and for some reason, we get a lot of dead animals around here. Throw that carcass in the container, put the lid on it, hang it from a tree, drill a bunch of holes with your drill all around the bottom of it. That thing, the flies will come in through the holes, lay their eggs, it'll heat up, it'll rot, and the maggots will drop through the holes, and it'll be a constant feeder for weeks for the chickens. You can hang it over a creek if you want to bait fish in there. But I literally did this for my chickens one time. And it was down there for 3 weeks till I was like walking around doing something. I'm like, man, what's that smell? But we do have 3 acres. So it's not like we were right in our neighbor's yard. But yeah, there you go. John's going to be on his best behavior, he says. Welcome in, small water charters. I know that's hard for John to do. So that's it. Each week we're going to be live for an hour with these how-tos. Second 30 minutes, it's just going to be kind of kick back, relax, questions, get into discussions. But I'm going to try to keep like the tutorial to 30 minutes. So if somebody's trying to, like I did when I was 12, I went through every book. Like I can show you a whole bunch of books. I read everything on hunting and fishing, taxidermy, everything. You know, everything to escape regular life. So I try to keep these so, you know, people aren't reading books for the most part anymore. So I want to keep these useful and short so people can pop in and maybe learn something that they didn't know. Now, down in Florida, John, you probably can't use night crawlers. You probably just use like garter snakes, I would imagine. Their bass are so big down there. But, oh man. So yeah, what are you guys up to tonight? Now I'm done my my tutorial or my whole presentation here. John said I watched all the bass fishing shows as a kid. Yeah, yeah. Roland Martin was one of the three I always think of. Man, he's just a total legend, and John fishes with the dude, which is pretty amazing. You know. I'm trying to think of the other names that were popular. Bill, I want to say John Denver. I keep thinking John Denver. My brain is shot. Bill Dance. Bill Dance was my personal favorite, still is. Teach your worm to swim. Welcome in, Stacy. Bank Fishing Adventures. And speaking of keeping worms cool, when you have 5 degrees out, like Stacy was fishing in the other night, you got to keep them warm. I put hot hands in my cooler with my worms the last few times I was out fishing. Jimmy Houston's the third one. Yeah, I grew up, you know, every weekend watching those guys. Saturday, you know, I basically was in the woods with my dad sun up to sundown hunting. Sunday would wake up and the fishing shows would be on. And the hunting show, trying to think of the hunting show. The one with Bubba. John, you got to know who I'm talking about. Ernest, the actor that played Ernest was in this. Jackie Bushman. I don't think that was the show. That was Jackie Bushman was the dude. Buckmasters, that's what it was. That was my show. I was like, I'd be writing in Buckmasters every week. I got things put in their magazine. Like, that was my jam. They would send me stuff. I was all over that. Yep, that was my show right there, Buckmasters. Yeah, when it's cold out, John, you got to go out there and you got to stay warm, man. You got to come in with all 21 digits, you know? You got to be careful. What's my for the worms? You know what, Stuart? Every time I hook a worm, I do feel a little bad. I'm not going to lie. Every single time. But I do it anyway, just like I kill my own roosters to eat, you know. You still got to do what you got to do. You go in the supermarket, you get your food out of some cellophane wrapper. You just hired an, you know, assassin basically is what you did. You're just taking out the middleman. If I had money like Jimmy, I'd... that man has a life. And you look at the history of Bassmasters and, you know, that's amazing. The whole way that thing started and blew up is a pretty amazing story. Batty won one of the Buckmaster trips, free camo and all. I still have the camo. They used to put the Timber Ghost. They used to push this line of camo, and I ordered pants and a shirt, and they sent me just pants. So then they sent me a shirt, and then like a week later, I got pants and shirt again. And I still have those. They're like still my go-to camo for early archery. I think it was Timber Ghost. Keep them in the fridge in the basement. Yep. 50 to like 70 Gypsy Vanilla. 50 to 70 is kind of the range that they like. Tim said, just think some of those guys on the TV like 30 to 40 years. Man, that's amazing. Lloyd isn't going to respond. Good man. Some things you got to just let go. You can keep them in a cooler outside with no icing and keep them warm. The ground doesn't winter. Yep. ground is a great insulator. You can go, I remember, well, Alaska's Alaska, with permafrost and stuff, but even when it was like 90 degrees out, you could lift a board up there and the back side of it was, frost. So yeah, you keep that down a little bit. And the soil is a great insulator. If you are in like Florida or somewhere where it gets really hot, someone was telling me they just put a couple ice cubes in there every couple days. That's all it takes, is like, because that cold goes down in the wood, melts, and that water is cold, goes to the bottom, and then it's insulated. So I guess it's obviously going to warm up, but it's going to probably not warm up that quickly. It's down deep and it's insulated. Let's see. John said the 30-06 he won is the one he shoots pigs with now. Oh, that's amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, there's something about like hand-me-down guns or guns with a story. Like I've got, well, who knows who's listening, but I got a couple guns. But I still use the one I've had, like I shot my first year with, 30-06, model 94, trigger, pump, still my go-to. I shot a deer that I got yelled at for shooting, like, don't shoot. It was like 85 yards running. I shot that thing like a cowboy from my hip, shot like 4 times, and that thing just crumbled. And everybody that was there was just like, oh my God, I can't believe you got that. So I will never use another gun to hunt deer ever again in Pennsylvania. Maybe other places, but in PA, that's my go-to gun. I don't need a sight. I just pull it up right down the iron sights and good to go. I miss here. Keep a light on the fridge, stop them from crawling out of the tubs. That's an interesting thought. I don't know if that would work or not. That's an interesting thought. I kept them, you got to have a lid on them, in my opinion, because I think I've raised them enough over the years to know you get curious worms. You'll come down, even in the basement when it's pitch black, there'll be a couple of them up on the side. And luckily I have a lid and drill holes through everything so they couldn't get out. But when I first tried night crawlers, I did it in a 5-gallon bucket, no lid on it. And I figured out there's no way they're going to crawl out of it. Like, how dumb can they be? They want their dirt. I came down and there wasn't a single night crawler left. They were just dead night crawlers all over the house. So I learned my lesson there. Let's see. Awesome. Northeast Slab Hunter said, awesome story. Jimmy and Richard Jean get together, maybe a few thousand subs, and we'll get invited. Roland has been in a few of our videos, even joined our live for 5 minutes. I remember that live, John. I think he was like sitting in a chair talking, trying to get the phone to work. I remember that live. Yep, worms love bananas. Yep, that is awesome. Remind me in this week's live to tell you about Batty meeting Jackie Bushman. Yes, I will, John. As long as I don't get in trouble in your live last time. My wife was so mad. I got distracted in John's live. And 2 hours passed by before I realized it. Northeast Slab Hunter. I've never shot a deer with a rifle, believe it or not, bow hunter, and got a shotgun 14. Never needed a shot. Yeah, that's how it is around here. Like where I hunt, it's a lot of like mountain laurel. You're not getting far shots. You go out west, 300 yard, 400 yard shots and stuff. That's a whole nother world to me. So yeah, I would definitely be looking for different stuff. But 90% of the deer we shoot these days are in our yard. And again, I'm not trying to be sporting. I'm just filling my freezer. I go out there with the crossbow. Montgomery County, we're allowed to feed them. So we put it, and the idea of the feeder here is because they'll just, if you have 2 neighbors that don't hunt, well, guess where they're going to go every single time. So we're allowed to feed. There's a lot of rules on it, but we do feed corn. They come in, we shoot them, put them in the freezer. That's how we roll. We very rarely ever buy meat. Skipjack Cindy, welcome in. Good to see you. Another awesome channel right there. Let's see, who else we got here? You're saying hi right back to you, Cindy. Are you fishing tonight? Are you? I saw you making snow angels. So did that kill the fishing for a little bit? She's been out a lot lately on the cats while we're all been freezing our butts off. I got a prize, Stuart. Right, John? I think I won a prize. I think I won a special prize. I'm not sure. I think I won a prize. I feel like I won a prize. Stuart's saying that I'm only whining because I didn't get a prize on John's live. But I think I bought a prize. Oh, yeah, there you go. My poster. That's what I'm talking about. It's a major award. Let me write down. I'll send you my address, John. Email it to you. John, need my address. I think you sent me my my big nasties. But maybe that came out. Maybe Bruiser Bait sent that directly. I'll send you my. I'll send it to you. Let's see what we've got going on. Yep, yeah, awesome. Northeast with you. I got a crossbow, compound, and a shotgun. Freezer's full every year. Hope he's not watching. No offense, but I got a neighbor that only shoots longbow. And I swear to God, he's wiped out half the buck in this valley, injuring. So yeah. Ray just shouted out catfish. I'm not sure what that was about, but he literally just shouted out catfish in the chat. I will say that Ray accomplished their mission lately was to catch a catfish, and he and one of his sons just accomplished that on the last live, which was awesome. I actually found out while I was doing my live, and I was so excited. I'm dragging. I'm trying to catch up here. Let me catch up, John. I'm there. Right, Cindy, a major reward. I'm going to hang it in my window when I get it. I'm going to light it up, hang it right in my window. The purist. Yeah, Ray caught a catfish. I'm catching up. I'm getting there. All right, Russian wind. We're heading out in like 10 minutes. So as far as what we got going on this week, we got a video coming out Friday. I think we're going to try to get a short one out earlier than that because I can't wait to show it to you. It's Tabasco trout caviar. It's a new recipe that we thought up, Kevin thought up, and we tried it, and it's absolutely amazing. We're going to be testing it out, different types of food. I do like to cook, and I do like to try to invent different things, which I fail 90% of the time on, instead of just putting on them with a cracker and cheese and calling it a day. But I'm pretty excited to get this recipe out there, and it's pretty simple, but we show you how to harvest and the whole 9 yards. So it'll be short. It'll probably be 2-3 minute video, but I want that out before the long video comes out, where we actually went out and harvested the trout with other fish, which will be out Friday. Saturday, Sunday, I've got 2 weeks. Yo, $2 from Northeast Slab. Yo, awesome, man. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. That is awesome. Sweet, man. Appreciate you. Totally lost my train of thought now. Let me have some of my kombucha. My New Year resolution was to cut back on alcohol. So I cut way back on alcohol. So I'm drinking, it's still fermented, but it doesn't have alcohol. It was more weight related than alcoholism, which is also another concern. But just got to get back into shape. Smallwater Charter says not everyone has a street named after them. I'm missing that. Mayo Racha sauce. Is that the Bang Bang sauce? Is that what you're talking? I think that's Bang Bang. Bang Bang sauce is fire, man. That's like the best thing to throw on there. Trout and Bang Bang sauce. Someone else needs. Nah, you guys don't have to give nothing, man. I always appreciate anything I get. Super appreciate it. Ray said I love salmon eggs at the sushi restaurant every time I go. So a lot of trout won't have eggs when they're stocked and things, but even stockies sometimes will have them in the fall. And first of all, like if you're going to throw them out, like save them at least, freeze them in a Ziploc bag, and use them for like if it's legal, chum, bait. You can feed if you have fish, eat them. Turtles eat them. Snakes eat them. Lip Ripper. If you guys know who Lip Ripper is, he's another local guy. He swears by chumming and ice fishing by putting down some fish eggs. He says you drop them through the ice and they just shine down there and the fish come to your hole. So I've never done that, but I do have some in the freezer to try out. That was the fish head. I'm too dumb to still to get it, but that's all right. I'll just move on with my life. It's okay. When I was a kid, my Rod's Fishing Adventure said when I was a kid, my grandma would take carp eggs and put in the freezer for a few minutes and stiffen them up and slice them and flour and fry them. I get like, are carp eggs that big that you can actually slice them, or was it like the whole skein? Like, was it still, because in my video, I show you how to like avoid having to clean the eggs. I don't want to spoil my video. Some of you might already know this method. It looks pretty nasty, but it's simple. And they taste 100 times better when harvested this way. That's pretty common here. That's pretty common here. Ray said we made a dirt road in the country and they let us name it, or in the county and they let us name it. In Pennsylvania, that's almost always the way where we are. Ott Road, Meng Road, all the roads in this area. Go find the oldest house on there, look on the mailbox, it's got the same name. John. John, yeah, look at Rose Fishing Adventures. He said the whole sack of eggs. John's going to blow up on this one. Yeah, so you just cut that in half. You know what? I'm always looking for things to try. I'm going to try that if I can remember. I'm going to try that with carp this year because Kevin wants to harvest another one. We kept one last year. It was the right size, and he was, on my case about it. And we smoked one fillet, which we knew was going to be delicious because everything smokes good. But the other one we broiled like trout. We broiled it with like asparagus, lemon, and then fresh herbs from the garden. And it was delicious. Despite what a lot of people say, it was really good. In fact, probably one of the better fish I've ever eaten. Fish Head Avenue. Whole sack of eggs, row. So, Rod, I got Rod's Fishing Adventures. One of my nicknames, which isn't my nickname, Smallwater Charters and Stewart like to call me Half Sack because I used to race with Lance Armstrong. I'll just leave it at that. It looks nasty. $5 says, if it looks nasty, $5 says it's nasty. John, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true at all. It's not like that. I make it right. Old roads. You got to get off the main roads a little bit. It depends on where you live. I like our area, but we're getting closed in northeast quickly. When I bought a house here, like I guess this was before Alaska even, all the roads here were dirt roads, like where I am. In fact, like the reason I moved to this spot was when I was racing for a living. This was the area I used to come and train. I would ride up here because of the hills and the mountains and the streams, and I do all my training in this area because I could get here from my house down in town. And over the years, I went from being able to do 100 loops, 100-mile loops all on dirt to like they're all paved now. So yeah, everything changes fast, man. Urban sprawl is unrelenting. John said, my pops would fry bass egg sacks like hush puppies when I was a kid. I don't know if that's supposed to make me go, oh, that's nasty, because I don't, man. People eat some weird stuff all around the world. And you know what? I'm telling you, man, we eat lobsters. And I've heard people talk about lobsters and how they eat. You know, you catch them at the end of the sewage thing. Like, what we think is normal is disgusting to somebody else in another culture. So I try to try everything once. Not always easy. $20, Stuart said, $20 says it's worse than nasty. Rod's Fishing Adventure said, my grandpa was a commercial fisherman and had a fish market. Man, that's awesome. So you probably know a whole lot about fish preparation then. That's pretty cool. I just wanted to clear the air on that one, Stuart. You know, I raced with half sack. You know, my sack, you know, okay. Let's see, Keith Doc Reed, welcome in. Another awesome member of our channel. Appreciate you. What a wonderful world. Good to see you there, buddy. Who else we got hanging out here? Let me catch up. I'll eat eggs anytime. Lobsters are the best. I had lobsters a couple times, and now I'm allergic to shellfish, so I'll never have them again. But my favorite was we drove up to Maine, and I always had them dipped in like butter. And then when we went up there, there was like a different type of like a white sauce with lemon that they were giving us. And man, that I loved them after that. But I only had them a couple times after that, and then all of a sudden I was died from shrimp. And then soon found out I was allergic to all shellfish. So that was it. Lobster roe is amazing. Interesting. Yep, Pennsylvania, Philly, New York, and New Jersey are pushing us in. It's true, man. Up where my parents live, Beltsville Lake, it's all New York and Jersey coming in there, and then from here it's Philly going up. Yep. I swear, someday I'm just going to move to Center City. I'm going to move right down where George Washington was. You know, I'm going to go right down in Old Town where it's still brick roads, and I swear there's not going to be anyone left. It's going to be empty because they're all here. That's what I think. John's too old for something. I know John's set in his ways. I'm not sure what he's talking about. But generally, we all know, set in your ways. We're going to cut out of here in just a few moments here. It's 8 o'clock. We've been live for my hour. Trying to keep it to an hour so that I can do these every Tuesday night and not get in trouble with the boss. Who we got? Mission Discover. Welcome in. That's Nolan, local angler. Awesome. Thanks for popping in. Just getting done here. B-52's Rockstar Lobster. Great song, ladies. Great song. I'm waiting for Hookset Sam because that's the dude that comes in every time when I'm leaving. And it's like, I just made it. But I appreciate everybody coming in. If you got questions on worms at all, either, especially if it's fishing related, come to me. If it's more content related, check out AJ from, I think it's Green Topics. Put them up in my description, I hope. Awesome channel. Werner Cordon, thanks for coming. Good morning to you. It's 8 o'clock at night here. I've got 2 kids and a wife, and we are shutting down the live here so that I can get them. We had a snow day from school. Well, it snowed all day, and they did their at-home learning. So they're all hyper, and I got to get them squared away for school tomorrow. Let's grow some ice, Northeast Slab. I want to get on the ice bad. I really want to get on the ice bad. I've had my ice fishing gear in a pile in the basement for 2.5 years waiting for ice. Came close a couple times, but this year, I may get in the car in a couple of weeks and drive north till I find ice. All right, Louise, have a good night, buddy. Appreciate you coming in. Yeah, if you need anything about worms, come to me. If you need anything about flies, go to Stewart. He's the fly tire. Same about 4-day week. Nolan, did you have to like learn at home though, or did you like get an old school snow day? Just curious. I need to know this. I'm just curious because my kids had to work, and then at some point we needed the teacher on something, and we couldn't find it like all day. Couldn't reach the teacher. I think the teachers had a snow day is what happened. All right, good night, everybody. Thank you all for coming in. Unfortunately, Zoom was in. See, these kids like Nolan, young man like Nolan, they don't know what a snow day is anymore. They don't have like no school, done. Go do whatever you want. Now it's, oh, I get to go to school in my pajamas from my bedroom. Rough. It's a rough life, man. You're being sold down the road by technology. That's all I'm going to say. I'm only half serious. Everybody have a good night. We'll catch you again soon. Hopefully on the water or in one of your chats or channels or lives. Peace out. Wendy's got a short. I'm going to go check it out. Later. I'm trying to turn my computer off. I forgot I'm live on this dumb thing. So unprofessional, I know.